All right, what's up, Dragon Brood? Magiccon Vegas was the biggest Magiccon to date at almost 25,000 people, which is insane. But there was tons to see, and we're going to talk about everything you missed this weekend from the event. Because my goodness, there was a lot. A lot of things you probably wouldn't even consider they would have. So this should be a pretty fun video, so strap yourselves in. And before we get to everything, I kind of have to start on day one because I almost didn't get on my plane. There was this weird thing where they sent me a notice and I got a couple of texts and an email saying like, "Hey, we're sorry, your flight's delayed." And then I'm sitting in this little cafe in the airport that's like a video game cafe thing, so you can play like Atari games and stuff while you eat. But then I hear them calling for my gate, and I'm like, "The hell?" So I'm like looking, and my gate wasn't supposed to be boarding for another 90 minutes. So I get over there with like 10 minutes to spare, and they let me on the plane. So I was on my way to Vegas. And honestly, the first day is not that exciting. I kind of do all the little stuff I need to do to set myself up for the weekend. So I bring all my stuff so I can record stuff, edit, post videos. You probably saw some of the videos I posted that look like I'm recording from a jail cell because like hotel rooms don't really have a lot of the time. So that's how I get that done. And then I also went ahead and bought a monorail pass because honestly, that's the best way to get around if you're going to be going up and down the strip, especially back and forth to the convention center, because the monorail drops you off right in front of the building, which is very cool. But I decided to just grab something simple to eat. There were some shops outside the casino where I was staying, resort hotel kind of thing. So I just went out there, grabbed a bite, and then on the way in, I grabbed a dessert because it had these weird, like, flat croissants, which is kind of weird because it kind of defeats the purpose of having a croissant. But I don't know. They make them flat and then they dip them in chocolate. I don't know. It's a weird thing. But it actually tasted fine, so I wasn't too upset to have it. But anyway, I managed to get some decent sleep because I knew that day two, which was going to be Friday, the first day of the show, was going to be pretty busy. So speaking of which, Friday was like the first time I wasn't extra busy on a Friday. Usually I have like multiple things to do every day, but for whatever reason, I didn't have much to do this Friday. So I decided to turn this into a big content day. So I went around and tried to see every single thing, or at least the majority of the things I could get in one day and get footage of all of it so y'all got a glimpse at what was at the show. So I wanted to start with one of the first things you see when you walked in, and there was a big Strixhaven section. And it was very cool because they had these booths where people were teaching you about the different schools. And then there was all these puzzles, which I thought was really cool. So if you filled them all out, I think there was some kind of prize. And then they even had a little shop where you could go over and get scarves to represent each of the different schools. And I saw people wearing those all weekend, so they must have sold a ton of them. Oh, and then one of the cool things that was new this time that they haven't ever done was a miniature golf course. But the cool part about this is they made every single hole themed to a magic plane. So there was one for Kaldheim and one for Zendikar, which was very cool. I think the most difficult one was the Duskmorn hole, where you had to shoot it up this tube and then try to get it to like plinko down into a thing. So like that was pretty crazy. Oh! But yeah, the Kamigawa one was neat. I mean, they just had a whole variety of them, which I thought was very cool. Because if you played Magic, there was just a lot of flavor there and you knew what they were aiming for. But if you were just new and wanted to see something cool, it was something fun to do that was different than just playing cards. Which reminds me, this was all kind of a section where they had a bunch of that stuff. So there were some old arcade games and some pinball machines, which I played a bit. And your boy ended up on top three in three of them. I played throughout the weekend. Turns out I'm actually still decent at pinball. Who knew? But there was also like this little slot car thing that you could play with people and race around a track and an air hockey thing. So there was just like a lot of stuff. I think there was even like a Papa Shot basketball thing there. So, and they were all free. So if you just want to hang out and try it, as long as you signed up, so, you eventually get into the miniature golf area and stuff. But yeah, it was pretty neat considering you could play all you want and there was no cost. Another fun thing while I was walking around the show is they had these different stations set up with statues and I guess kind of just picture moments. So it was very cool. I found an Iron Man that was fun to take a picture with, and I think a Kaya I got a picture with, but there was also a couple of different cards like a hex catcher and a couple other things that I didn't really get. Oh, I almost forgot. There was the Red Bull Tavern. This was actually really cool. They set up a whole section where you could go in and you can play games and they had D&D stuff running throughout the weekend, some magic things. And actually, in Red Bull fashion, they had to have some crazy competition. So they actually ran a fastest sleeving competition throughout the weekend, which is very cool. I got to see the end of that. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, just a lot of cool stuff. And then they had a couple of special drinks that were Red Bull based, obviously, because it's Red Bull that you could get through the weekend. And they even had characters coming through that were dressed up in medieval stuff and kind of playing the part in the tavern. So there was a lot of fun there, and it was cool to see Red Bull sponsor or at least have a booth at a Magiccon. Oh, something else that was different here too is they had free play areas like all over the place. I think there was 4 different places and technically 5 because there was also a command zone. So if you were just looking to play, you didn't have to go very far if you just wanted to get off your feet, play a game with your friends, and not have to walk all the way across the venue, which was pretty cool because let me tell you, I put in like 9,000 steps a day, even stopping and talking with people. There was a lot of space to traverse, but it was fun. Oh, now speaking of different areas, while I was walking through, there was a Magic family area, and that's something they've had a few times before. And there's always fun stuff there that you can see on the schedule. They'll have artists come over and teach kids how to draw dragons, and they'll have like a bead making station and just fun stuff for kids to do that aren't necessarily super competitive or anything, but you can do fun magic related stuff, which is pretty nice. And they usually center a lot of it around the little Bloomborough area. I may have shared a picture before, but lots of fun stuff. There's always something going on. There was a big thing going on as I walked by, and there was a crazy line, but I had no idea what the line was for. And if you wanted to get something signed, let me tell you, there were artists as far as the eye could see. I don't even think I'd be exaggerating if I said there were 50 artists there this weekend, and a very large number of them had lines. A matter of fact, when I was walking by, several of them had the signs that are just saying like the line is capped, and it was like 4 hours before close. Some had them within 2 or 3 hours of the hall opening. And to be fair, some of that was also because you need to give the artist a break so they can go grab lunch or whatever and come back. But yeah, it's really cool to see that the artists are able to sell this much stuff and draw this much attention because it wasn't always like that for Magic. So this is very good for them right now. Going beyond the artist area, there was the merch booth. And man, let me tell you, for me personally, I'm not willing to wait in line at a merch booth. I don't think there's anything I want that badly to wait in. Gosh, what had to be an 800 to 1,000 person line, it felt like. It were so many switchbacks. I think you walked like a quarter mile to get to the front. But a lot of people did. And it was cool because honestly, they had a ton of stuff available in the merch booth. Even had a setup where they were doing print on demand shirts. So you could like pick your color and I think pick your Strixhaven school and something else. And then they would print them right there on site in whatever size you selected. And then you just came back in like 15 minutes or whatever and picked it up. So that was a cool thing that didn't exist before. The only downside for me is there was a really cool shirt that I wanted that was sold out because I went on Sunday, but it's okay. I knew the gamble. I've been pretty lucky so far, but I think now that the conventions have gotten this large, there's a real chance I may have to come up with a plan to get somebody in line throughout the weekend for me so I can get a piece so before they run out. And then of course there's a lot of stuff that goes on the main stage, right? They had more main stage programming and honestly there was a separate panel room that I never even saw, actually a couple now that I think about it. But the main stage also stayed very busy and that's actually a good thing. With that many people, you kind of get folks that just need a break. They want to sit down and they can watch something, which I thought was very cool. And there's always different things on there throughout the weekend. Some of it were fun games, some are some of your favorite YouTube shows, kind of did live shows in front of the audience. And then there was just fun games and things they came up with for people to play and watch. So that was pretty fun. Not to mention, there's also the cosplay contest and all that that happens on the stage. And oh man, were there a lot of vendors. This is probably the most vendors I think we've seen at a MagicCon, and several of them were new, which I thought was very cool. So there were some that, you expected to see, like all the card vendors and stuff, but then they had like PSA that was grading cards for people. They also had heritage auctions that had full displays of super rare stuff and like artist signed things. And I guess they were selling them. I assume they were going to be out of my price range, so I didn't even ask. But yeah, lots of other cool stuff like people making these really sweet chibi keychains that sold out super quickly. And then Dragon Shield actually had a whole bunch of these, like, I say a whole bunch, like 3 different varieties of exclusive sleeves. One of them being these cool Shieldred sleeves that they ran out of, I think, by the end of Saturday. So yeah, people were just buying all kinds of stuff. Like you saw tons of empty racks and empty tables, even with the vendors trying to fill stuff up. And man, if you did want to play something competitive, they had a whole separate hall just for ticketed play. And that thing felt like it was 3 quarters full, a big chunk of the weekend. I don't even know where all these people came from, but it was humanity as far as the eyes could see. But they had all types of stuff. If you wanted to play competitive commander stuff, if you wanted to play qualifiers, if you wanted to play the new limited championship qualifier stuff was going on. There was just all types of things all weekend long, and it seemed like they were run pretty well, and everybody I talked to seemed to have a good time. So maybe having that room separate like that worked out pretty well for everyone. And later that day, when I got a chance, I went back around and checked out the Pro Tour area just to kind of get a look at everything that was going on, say hi to some of my friends on commentary, some of the players that I know that were competing just to check in and see how they were doing. But it's actually really cool to see that that's still part of Magiccon because it gives people a chance to kinda see it up close and personal and probably draw some interest in competitive play in the Pro Tour. So I think it's cool that that's there, and I hope that it stays. But in general, let me tell you, it was just huge piles of people. Like, if that was my takeaway from Friday, it was that walking through the hall, there were so many people, but because of the amount of space they used, there was a lot of decompression areas, and I wasn't elbow to elbow. Like, if you've ever been to Gen Con or even San Diego Comic-Con, there's a lot of time where you can just be kind of bumping into people constantly, and that wasn't really that much of a thing at MagicCon, which was really nice. And another fun thing is on the way out, there were, I think, 7 food trucks. So lots of options. Not to mention they had food kind of throughout the venue that you could get, which I thought was nice too. The food wasn't all in one area, so nothing got congested. They were kind of spread out across each of the halls, which I thought was really nice. But even outside, and it was a good variety, right? You could get full plates of food, you could get snacks, you can get smoothies. So I love that there was a variety there, and you were helping out some local businesses with the food trucks. And oh man, there was so much stuff going on this weekend. I actually forgot to tell you about the stuff going on Friday at the party. I don't even know what they called it, but it was some type of party that was open. You had to get tickets though, and the cool part was there was a lot going on at this thing. But one of the crazier things, there was these 5 tents set up, and we didn't really get a warning of what was going on, but they all had these Strixhaven symbols, so we were kinda like, "Alright, there's something here." And then periodically, while we were talking to each other, you just look over and, like, some people just disappeared into a tent, and it would just shut. We're like, "What's happening?" So we went over to one, and they had these actors that were way over the top, like, I don't know, like method actors, but they were having a great time, and honestly, they brought us into these tents, and we had to solve these different puzzles and help solve this overall mystery that was going on if you solved all 5 of them, and it was pretty cool. We did it in small groups. I think they tried to do, like, 8 or 10 people at a time, but man, just a cool little addition to have that was a lot of fun, and nobody had no idea what was going on, but we all enjoyed it. There was also karaoke, but what was also cool is in the next room over, they had this group, and they were actually really good, surprisingly, as a cover band. And the fun part about it, from what I understand, I don't know how true this is, but I was told they were all Magic players from different bands, and this was their actual first show together. If so, awesome to them because it was actually really good. Everybody had a good time listening to those guys. But after listening to them do their set, it was time for them to start setting up for some karaoke. I hung around for a little bit and then jetted back to my hotel. But to open Saturday ended up being more of this is the day I'm going to hang out, try to meet a few folks, try to get some business done talking to some of the vendors. And then also, I got to do demos of mood swings. So this was a fun day overall. And it started with me running into somebody I'd seen at a previous MagicCon that really wanted to show me something. And he had this really sweet Ninja Turtle van that a friend of his had custom made for him that had like a side loading deck box and everything. And I just thought, man, this is cool for people who are upset at Universes Beyond. Like people like this get brought into our game that have this much passion. I can't hate this. But I did spend a fair amount of time hanging out in the what they call the Creator Central area. And here all kinds of stuff were happening all weekend. It was going to be the area where I was going to do my demos, but also a lot of the other creators where they're doing different types of fun like trivia, quiz shows, doing fun kind of giveaways and just pretty much anything we can come up with just to entertain people and build our brand as creators. And again, all this stuff was free for the attendees. So if you ever go to a MagicCon, swing by the Creator Central area because you never know what's going down and you might be able just to get something for free. There was also this thing. I don't know why this amused me so much, but I had to get up and do it. They were doing these like 360-degree slow-mo selfie things. I don't even know what you call it, but it'll be here on screen. You can see it. It looks kind of goofy, but it was fun. I think now that I know how it works, I would have done something cooler, but it was just fun to do something different. And again, it was free, so you got a fun little thing to take home with you on your phone. Oh yeah, and I forgot from yesterday. There was a section that had a little Ninja Turtle area that had all the products displayed and like some stuff in display cases. I don't think I got many pictures of it, but just thought it was worth mentioning just to be a complete kind of review. The mood swings demos, those were actually pretty fun. The game is actually pretty sweet. I'm going to be putting together some shorts and maybe even a full review here on the channel here in a couple of days. So if you're curious, be sure to follow, like, subscribe, do all this stuff. Do the things that make the dings so you won't miss that. But it won't be available right now. I believe it's going to be available June 1st on Secret Layer. So you may want to keep your eyes out for that if you're interested in picking it up. But if you've ever played Flux, it's kind of like that, but with a little bit of a magic theme, and it's actually pretty fun. Everybody I demoed it for liked it. But after doing the demos, I spent a little time talking to some other creators to kind of start making plans for the next few months. And then I decided, you know what? Let's grab a couple of friends and go grab a steak dinner. So we went to Jack Binion's Steakhouse, and man, let me tell you, the prime rib is pretty good. But yeah, we had a good time, huge sides. The service was great there, and it was a good way to wrap up the evening, especially after all the walking around and talking to people. It was good to just have like a chill night with a couple of other friends and creators and just keep it nice and small. I know a lot of people like to do the big dinners, but I'm more of a small, cozy gathering type of guy, so I could talk to everybody at the dinner. It was a good time and a good way to end Saturday. Now, Sunday is the shortest day of the show, so you kind of want to use this as your wrap up day, right? You want to get everything else done the rest of the weekend. And this is for catching up, finishing up any deals you need to get back with somebody on, maybe a vendor you were going to go back and sell some stuff to. So I took some time to go sell some cards at Tales of Adventure. And I had a meet and greet here, and it was always fun to do these. I think it's great to have a chance to meet all of you because when you're watching the videos here on YouTube, all I see is numbers. I don't get to see the faces behind them. So anytime you want to come up and say hi, even if I'm talking to somebody, don't feel rude like you're going to interrupt because I'll talk too much if you let me talk to everybody. But yeah, I got to sign so many playmats and take so many pictures and give away so many tokens. And I think this is one of my highlights of every Magiccon or any Magic event I get to go to. I love doing this stuff. So definitely come up. I will take every picture, sign everything. I love doing it. But yeah, it was good to meet y'all that came through. And if not, hopefully I catch some of y'all at the next one. But yeah, after the meet and greet, I didn't have much else I had to do on Sunday. So that was actually super nice. But I did spend time talking with some of my sponsors so we could plan extra content because, got to take care of the bills. But then also, like I said, other creators, we were pitching some ideas and things we have coming up over the next few months, which you'll probably see some of that here on the channel, which is very cool. But then we decided, after all that was wrapping up, why don't we go do dinner? We were going to try to go back to the steakhouse because there were other people that heard how good it was, but unfortunately, they were booked up on reservations. So we got to go to another place I hadn't been to yet, a place called Kimchi that does a really cool all you can eat Korean barbecue. But at least that's what we thought. Turns out for $49.99, you get Korean barbecue, you get all the sides, you get desserts, you get what else did they have? Oh, sushi. If you can kill more than $50 in sushi, pretty easy. This spot's for you. You should check them out. They're on the north end of the strip, so it's not far to get to from any of the main hotels on the strip if you're ever in Vegas. But after having a couple hours to sit there and eat, we decided to go over and check out the LobbyCon at the Renaissance because I stayed away from the LobbyCon all weekend because I didn't want to be up till 3, 4 in the morning and still have to get up and go do business. But at the end of the weekend, I didn't mind so much. I took time to walk through, talk to people. Honestly, partly to see if I could still meet up with some folks that were at the show that I didn't get to see among the mass of humanity. And that was kind of fun just to wrap up, share some simple stories, grab a drink with a couple of folks, and then afterwards decided it's time to go back to the hotel because I got to get out in the morning. And I always try to stay either a day early and a day late so I don't have to feel rushed. And this worked out perfectly. I was able to get to the airport in the morning with no major rush, not a lot of traffic. And honestly, it was nice and chill. Though I do generally sleep on the planes, especially leaving Vegas because the weekend is so busy. But yeah, it's just good views from the skies, and it was a simple flight. And then I got to come back and, well, make more content for you. But yeah, I hope you all enjoy the wrap up of seeing everything that was at Magiccon Vegas because, man, there was so much. And if y'all want reviews from these other events I go to, let me know. And I will do some more vlog style stuff for you because I could have done even more to show you more of the things and talk to more of the people if that's what you want. But yeah, I thought this was fun to do. So hopefully y'all enjoy it and we'll do more of them. But if you haven't had a chance to go to a Magiccon, I really recommend it. There is so much to do beyond just playing Magic. And I think that's something a lot of people aren't aware of. But that's all I have for now. We'll see you next time.